Creating beyond calculation, beyond politics, and beyond the big two. Welcome, Silverliners, to the wonderful world of Wednesday Wham. I'm your host, Dean Zachary. We're joined tonight by the Empress of the Inks, Barbara J. Kilberg, the paragon of pencils, Rob Davis. Well, wow, hang on. Someone's coming in here late here. The Wizards of Wordplay, Rory Boyle, and could it be?
Hey.
Scott Wakefield is in the house, ladies and gentlemen. Just
here I am,
in time,
late to the party as usual.
Scott, I was just going to mention that I have heard a new nickname being bandied about for your partner in crime there, Rory Boyle. Some have said that maybe, just maybe, a character from Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer might be more appropriate. Perhaps you can
give the man a pickaxe. Wow!
And so, as we approach the holiday season, we'll enhance that definition and maybe use that a bit more. Yeah, I think you really need to work on that, Rory.
Lick a nice pick.
I'm not sure.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
Biffer,
Boffer, Bomber.
Yeah,
which
one?
Which
oh my
one?
Goodness, we could just go off on that. As you may know, tonight's subject is the various art styles and how they're used within the context of a single title and changed within that title, how that affects the reader. But the way I wanted to set the table for the discussion was to first of all describe several of the period styles that are generally accepted as defining.
I don't accept them.
The archive doesn't surprise me at all.
Yeah, don't even acknowledge.
Don't even acknowledge they even exist. You post-millennialists.
What is
before
art?
The 21st century?
Is it really? Do we really see it? Is it really there?
Is it really there?
No,
it's not really. But
does anybody really know what time it is?
Does anybody really care?
Whose line is it anyway?
Thank you.
Great song. Chicago, by the way. But
one of my favorite groups.
Yeah, great group. Absolutely great group. A lot of jazz, fusion, rock stuff.
Saw them live. Oh man!
Oh, I bet it was awesome, dude. Oh,
yeah, Kenny
awesome.
Kath was still with them. Oh.
Did you have your bell bottoms?
Oh, you
I
bet.
had my bell bottoms. Don't even go there, man. I had bell bottoms so intense they were corduroy bell bottoms.
Man, that's good.
But it goes further than that. Racing a friend down Elm Street as a preteen way back in 1976. The bell bottom locked up into the chain of the bicycle, sending me hurtling forward and landing on both elbows. So, yes, it was a fun summer after lots of stinging going on.
No doubt.
I graduated in '77, so my entire high school career was full of huge bell bottoms, thick leather brace, watch bands.
Belt. Yes.
I had a buckskin jacket with fringe.
Of course. Awesome. All awesome stuff. So the art styles segue into that because much like fashion, we have art styles that were so prevalent. They dominated the decades in which they existed. And I was talking, Scott, for purposes of discussion tonight, I was talking off camera before the show and saying that, all the wonks and experts and comic book scholars in their ivory towers would look down on our discussion tonight because they would say, you're not accurately defining each age. And what I'm saying to them is, you know what? For purposes of our discussion, we're going to summarize each age with a decade. And we're going to call the 50s the Golden Age, the 60s the Silver Age, the 70s the Bronze Age, the 80s the Dark Age, the 90s the Modern Age, and beyond the 90s, the age of degradation, death, degeneration, and spiraling into nihilism. Yes, I'm just saying, just being funny. But honestly, there's no prevalent style post 2000 in my mind. We can debate that later in the show if you guys want to explore that. But our friend and the Empress has been kind and gracious enough to volunteer to screen share with us as we do discuss some of these
As
art
we
styles.
travel.
Yes.
Before
travel
we
back
do
Hop
in
into a
that-
time
time.
machine. Yeah.
With,
Before we do that,
yes.
I have just learned that we are now streaming also on LinkedIn.
I saw that
Wow.
too. Check that
We've
out.
gone
Like it's right in the banner.
worldwide.
Like you go to
That's
LinkedIn,
cool.
click on Silverline Comics, and the banner is the video. I mean, you can click on it and it'll embiggen
Wow.
it.
So I
But-
want to
Wow.
welcome everybody from LinkedIn to
Yeah,
our
that's-
stream.
That's the
All right.
I mean, we got to be professional, folks. This is
Oh,
yeah,
we
we're
we're on
gotta
LinkedIn.
Clean up
now.
our act, guys.
I'm gonna put a
Yeah,
tie
this is-
on.
this-
Yeah, you can't go off on the rails
We
tonight.
need our
kids.
resumes in our little names right there.
You start wearing a shirt that's got the bow tie on it.
You
Classy
can
it up.
tab down, open the menu
I'm wearing
underneath our
my
names
office
with our resume.
glasses,
Oh, that's good,
Oh,
Rob.
look
You
at
look
you.
very
Oh,
professional.
Very
Oh,
proper.
wow.
Very
and
proper.
I'm over at the computer. I'll switch back over to the drawing board here in just a minute.
Oh, okay.
Doing a little print
Barb
out.
has been kind enough to flash up one of our first defining art styles. I would say this represents the golden age, one of the most famous comic books
Barb,
of,
is this
of all
from
time.
this is on your desk right now? You took a
Yeah.
picture from your desk? Okay.
Isn't that cool how
You
that
got Action
works?
Comics #1?
Yeah.
Yes,
3.2
right.
Yeah.
I
million.
took a photo of this out of my own collection.
You just keep it on the
Right.
shelf. Just toss
You
it
had
on the
to-
shelf when you're
You had
done.
to
and
take it out of the plastic to get a good picture of it
Yes.
roll it up, put it in your pocket.
for authenticism.
This, of course, influenced heavily by the 30s and 40s for our purposes, defining all the way up into the 50s. The look, the classic Americana look, this would have been, pre-war and including war and post-war and Korean War. So a lot of the conventions of that period, as far as not only car styles, but the look and feel of no real extreme POVs with camera work, reflecting the sort of more, I would say, pedestrian viewpoint of just tell the story, right? We're not looking at crazy angles necessarily or close-ups, or we're looking at mostly medium shots and establishing shots to tell the story. And Scott, do you have any observations on the golden age as we scroll through some of this stuff?
Well, simplicity, not overly detailed, but it's good. Actually, I mean, when you look at Action Comics #1 here that we're looking at, that automobile looks awesome. But it's done with a minimal amount of lines in it. Forgive me if my wording is off, but I mean the car with its lines, I know the car is, but the way it's drawn here is that 30s 40s Art Deco style of simple and it fits with the same theme of advertising from that era. Of architectural lines as well. Simple, and I really like it. I love this style.
Yeah, it's a direct style. The economy of line is used. The economy of effect in regard to coloring, because of the limitations of print and production at the time and so forth. Barb, what about you? When you see Golden Age work, what comes to mind besides what we've said with the economy of line and color?
It's clean.
Good word.
Clean, very simplistic. Everything is there, however, to give you the story that they're trying to tell without cluttering it up with a bunch of extraneous material.
That's a good point. Good point.
Yep.
Rob, what about you, my friend? Any additional commentary on this piece?
It's mostly based on comic books. If anybody knows the history of comic books, they'll know that they started out reprinting cartoon strips from the newspaper. They collected them, and then when they ran out, then they started hiring people to do new ones. So the first ones were based on that same look. So you had a lot of that medium shot. It was everything like that. Then you have people like Jack Kirby come along and go, well, we can do more with that page. So they made round panels, and they used whole pages, and people jumped out of the panels when he started doing that. So, but what strikes me about the Golden Age is how crude it is. It's that simpleness and all that. There's a crudeness to it. A part of the reason for that is most of the people who early in the industry weren't taught in art school. They were self-taught, or they were people who couldn't find jobs in other art regions of the art world, didn't have quite enough experience, so they worked in comic books. So it was rather crude and simplistic, but having to crank those pages out every day like they had to do, you got better at it as you went along. Plus, you learned what you could do and what would work and what wouldn't work. So it's kind of crude to start with, but as that time goes by, it gets more and more. It gets better and better as they go along. So, but
excellent point.
The really early stuff is kind of crude, to be honest. It's very crude.
Sure. What about you, Rory? Thoughts, observations?
Yeah, simple, I think, is the word for it. Simplistic. It's not quite minimalism and not quite realism. I mean, everything was very proportioned, fine lined. The car to Superman to the guy behind him. It's not outlandish at all.
Sorry about that. I had
no worries.
A little blip in the electricity here.
You had a hiccup. Oh boy, that's not good since you're doing the putting the stuff up for us.
No worries. We elaborated on our opinions. I think the other element I noticed, or quality I should say, that I noticed with this particular style is the focus is usually central, and it's a simple clarification of subject. So here we're focused primarily on Superman doing a feat of unbelievable strength, and then someone in the foreground running and flailing his arms as if the day of the body snatchers has arrived or something. It's pretty fun, but typical of the day, but good. It's this all, like I say, all this is going to come in handy later in the show when we talk about current styles and changing those styles within a title. What's next here? Okay, again, another prime example of the golden age. Does it? I'm gonna take this moment because we are looking at Superman.
Mark Waid was in the golden age.
Golden age. Well, this style was in.
Okay.
That's Wayne Boring, isn't it? Isn't that one of his drawings of Superman?
It's hard for me to see.
I think it's Wayne Boring.
I wanted to bring up the fact that, did it ever bother anybody before it was brought up in the late 90s that they were wearing strongman underwear? Did that?
Yeah, I never got that. That was
I was.
You got to be mobile. You got to.
Right.
Nothing holding you back.
For those who aren't aware of it, in the early 20th century, in the World's Fair. And often in fairs and circuses that would travel around, there was the definitive stereotypical strongman who usually sported a handlebar mustache and a wife beater shirt and those types of underwear, and he would perform
tiger print leotard.
Yeah, feats of strength, so to speak. And this particular convention of the day heavily influenced the artists who came up with Superman and Batman and a lot of the classic DC superheroes. Wasn't as prevalent in Marvel, although it is there. You can see it in the FF, the Fantastic Four. You can see it in the Submariner. But as we move forward into the So
Sorry.
I just want to notice
jumped
that.
the gun there.
That's a big jump.
Oh yeah. Yes. Is this Kirby? It's definitely Kirby-esque. If it's not,
It is Kirby. Yes.
it's Kirby.
That's
Yes,
that's New Gods.
that's New Gods. We're now full on into the Silver Age, the 60s, where all of a sudden we're starting to see more celestial, esoteric, cosmic powers being displayed in more action that's beyond just an establishing shot that looks like we're watching a stage show. We're being brought into the action, and everyone who knows Jack Kirby's art knows he's famous for this, bringing you the most dynamic scenes, the most I would guess bombastic is the word that comes to mind.
Yep.
I'll pass it on to Scott next. What do you think, man? What comes to mind when you see Kirby's epic Silver Age material?
Oh, well, there's it's energy and they're always engaging. There's never like a static portion of the scene, and especially with this, I mean, you got a fist about to fly, the two arms fighting there or something, another fist maybe ready to go, and you have all the blasts of light or the blasts of action, that not just this panel, but like in that arrow was always those beams of things happening, going, exploding, moving, thinking, exclaiming, being surprised. So it's always a lot of movement. But then the detail too. And this is, I got a question. I don't know what you call it. I don't know if there is a style, but when you're trying to make something metallic, and you do, so he has a curved metal head there, or metal helmet, and you do those lines. That doesn't seem as prevalent. Correct me if I'm wrong. It doesn't seem like old comics a lot of times, because they were just sticking to primary colors. They didn't do that a lot. I noticed the fenders on that car just had two white
highlights.
To make it look curved, so there's a reflection. But this style of making something look metallic, I don't know when that came about or became more prevalent, but
it's definitely there. Kirby really, I would say, is identified with a lot of what we in the art world call core shadows and highlights. Core shadows and making something look shiny is a convention that we learn early on when we're dealing, drawing armor, a lot of armored characters and vehicles and so on, and glass or windows. And Kirby was a master at texture. He was also a master at bringing to us the language of energy in comics, whether it's a starburst style blast like you see in the
Kirby
lower right, but the Kirby crackle that you see in the upper left.
The upper left.
So you see all of that here. The crackle, I've even used it in a most recent cover for the Divinity cover I did for Barb recently. But everyone uses it now and then as an homage, as a tribute, and just because it's cool and it's fun.
I have a special brush that just does.
There's a brush with a Kirby crackle now.
I've got a brush like that for Photoshop too. It's really, I haven't used it much yet, but
there's like 4 different versions.
Cool.
Yeah, I have 4 different brushes that does different versions of the Kirby crackle.
Very good. Barb, what about you? When you see this, are there just a handful of words that summarize Kirby style and or the Silver Age style?
It's exaggerated.
Okay.
Kirby stuff has always been very exaggerated to me. Overly. I mean, he's taken it to almost to a caricaturistic style, but it's so dynamic that he can get away with it.
Yes, the caricature of power, as I like to call it, rather than the caricature of humor or exaggeration, as we see in a lot of caricature. This is pure power, and the idea of I think most people, when they think of Kirby, at least with me, I think of him drawing the Thing with those square fingers. And he takes that aesthetic and he can use it with any character from Thor or whoever, any of the Avengers. And it just works because of the consistency of the world that he's created, the filter that you're viewing his work.
I jumped over one from the Golden Age, so I'm going to go back to it now.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, go there. No, go there. Okay, good call. One of the groups of the Golden Age, the Justice Society, which eventually gave way to the Justice League as we got into the Silver Age. But you can see by staring at some of these costumes, a lot of the strongman underwear is there. A lot of capes, a lot of theatrical look, costumes that would be very comfortable in a Broadway show or a stage production for local theater. A lot of things that seem almost quaint to us now and would certainly not work in a modern day environment unless you were doing a tribute or a specific period story. No, it's awesome. Rory, any comments on this particular page?
Nothing that grabs me. Is it maybe I'm seeing less detail because it's supposed to be a larger
Yeah,
a
full
larger
group.
image.
Yeah, it's
So
more
it's
it's
simpler.
more simpler. Yeah, it's more the look. I just keep thinking, stage theater, stage production, rather than realism. There's a sense that the audience will accept comic books as broad brush theater, almost like if you guys have ever watched the Cecil B. DeMille version of the Ten Commandments,
Oh
and
yeah.
then versus modern approaches to biblical storytelling, and the gap there of style. The Ten Commandments is almost performed as a stage production, beautifully done in its style, epic. It doesn't diminish the impact of it by any means, but certainly it's noticeable in style. And I get that same feeling from Golden Age comic art.
Again, it's minimalist. Even though there's a lot of characters on this page, because of the minimalism of the style, they're not all lost in each other.
Yeah,
agreed.
And even comparing these Golden Age ones to the Kirby one had just a lot more musculature packed into it. And yeah, these guys are all ripped because they're superheroes, but I only see abs on a couple of them.
Yeah.
Well, the other ones we're going to be looking at, everyone's got a 6 or 8.
Yeah. They're shredded in the new ones, right?
Now we're in Silver Age. Back to Silver Age.
Now we're back to Silver Age with the group. This is the Justice League. So again, we're starting to get into more sophisticated costume design, a little more modern palette that reflects the time period. Scott, what do you see when you look at this and we enter the Silver Age? What strikes you here?
The detail is coming out a bit more. They're more of the physique, like Rory was talking about. You do get a bit more. Well, I don't know. The expressions in the faces. Again, that Action Comics #1, the guy in the foreground, he was pretty expressive. But I not so with the Kirby style. The action or the comic book hero's physique is, I think, a bit more bulky and a bit musclier. But I don't know. Look at Superman there. He is jacked.
But he's an alien.
Which Justice League Superman. They're
also they're not quite so cartoony. They're starting to tend towards more realism.
Yep.
You can see it. Yeah. You definitely can see the
simple colors, though. Still
more simple and flat in terms of color and rendering. But as has been said, we're starting to see they're looking like more unique individual people wearing real clothing rather than it's still theatrical, but not quite as Broadway show theatrical. We're starting to get a little more grounded. Not yet, not where it's going to go, but. You're starting to see it. Barb, any other observations with this one?
Again, they are hampered by the technology of the time. But even so, the coloring technique has gotten a little bit more sophisticated. Were they actually painting at this time?
No, I believe so. No, this was 4-color, right? Screen print.
4-color.
Yeah. It depends on now. Golden
all of these
Age,
were hand colored.
Yeah,
Golden was hand, so we're in silver. So we're starting to get into the screen printing era here.
And it's all the same shades of everything, like all the green.
Right.
Yeah, there's maybe some gradations, just a little bit, but not very much.
Right.
Not very much. Right.
Okay.
Right. We can move on. Here we go. One of the more classic covers of the Silver Age. Again, we're starting to get into more. This is going to sound weird, but you'll get it when I wrap it up here. That looks more like a villain. We've finally entered the age where the costume that I think is one of the coolest costumes ever designed by Steve Ditko. Actually, if you take everything you know about Spider-Man and you just look at that as a person who never read comic books, you might think that's a villain on the cover because there's a darker color scheme. Those eyes, those unforgettable almond-shaped eyes on his mask, the fact that he's called Spider-Man, the webbing, all of a sudden, this is getting a little bit more intense. So the word here for me is one of the coolest costumes ever designed, and intensity. Scott, go, man. Go for it.
No, it tells everything that there is about him, but you're right. If you're being introduced, the eyes make you think something.
What's he hiding?
Right?
Yeah.
Is he angry? Is there something nefarious compared to what we were just looking at with the bright colors, the superhero, the hero pose, and like what's going on here? But his outfit does fit the character and shows like, okay, he's Spider-Man. Something about spiders. He's swinging. I don't. He's just like a rope there. It's not obvious it's a web or anything like that. But
we have word balloons.
Yep. But I actually don't know what he's saying there. I have to bring my face in really close.
Though the world may mock Peter Parker, the timid teenager,
that's good.
It will soon marvel at the might of Spider-Man.
But
Spider-Man.
He could, again, he could be kind of grumpy there. If he's mocking Peter Parker, I'll show them.
I'll show them.
Yeah,
that's exactly right. Barb, what about you? When you look at this and try to remove all the preconceived knowledge that you actually have about this character, when you first see this in comparison to the previous material, what comes to mind?
Well, for one thing, we have the word balloons that's been introduced. So this is going to be a fashion for a while in the Silver Age. And we have a little blurb at the bottom, also in this issue. So yes, we've got some background going on now as well. Not just simple
perspective.
figures. Yep.
Yes.
We've got a little bit, perspective, a little more detail. We've got some grays thrown in there. And as you mentioned, and somebody else mentioned, this is introducing Spider-Man. And we can't tell, like you said, we can't tell from either reading this, the blurbs on the front, or from looking at this character, whether he's a good guy or a bad guy. So he could be an anti-hero. He could be a hero.
Yeah.
We don't know.
Rob, what about you? When you see this classic cover, what strikes you the most?
Okay, you want me to look at it without context or with the context?
Both.
Because the context is, this is a Kirby cover, really, on a Steve Ditko book. Now it's inked by Ditko, but Ditko would never draw Spider-Man swinging like that. It would be a whole. That's definitely a Kirby. The first time I saw this was well after I'd started reading Spider-Man. I hadn't seen Amazing Fantasy number 15, and I saw that cover and I go, that doesn't feel right. That doesn't feel like Spider-Man. But it's a very effective cover in introducing the character, but it doesn't have the same feel of the stuff that's inside the book and what happens to him later. The things that Ditko does with the anatomy of Spider-Man and how he jumps around and does all of his stuff is very acrobatic, and this doesn't show any of that. There's no grace. There's grace in Ditko's work on Spider-Man. There's no grace in this. He's just swinging. There's no, his legs are posed just so. There's, like I said, there's some grace to the way Ditko did him. So that's what I get from this cover. Now, I didn't see it fresh on the stand when it first came out, but all the other points about that are very accurate. You can't tell whether he's a good guy or a bad guy. The fact that his costume's real dark, mostly.
It's
there's all the black, and then you've got the spider webs on him. Spiders are icky. So a Spider-Man, that's got to be a bad guy.
He's got to be a bad guy.
Turns out to be a good guy.
Good call. Good observations all around. Rory, what about you?
I just always marvel at that when using blue and black together, because you really have to pay attention, because the lowlights and highlights would have to switch daytime to nighttime, and heaven forbid it's an evening or morning shot. But I think Spidey is just barely hanging on to that guy. If you were to follow like where his hand would actually
He's
end,
just
he's
yeah,
grabbing him by
barely-
the belt or something. He's just holding him
He's
onto the
going to
hip.
drop this
He's
guy.
gonna drop that guy.
Got him a hold by his hip bone, basically.
And it looks
Yeah.
like he's running, like Spidey is running because all those people in the background
it
are
does a little
watching.
bit. Right, right. But again, we're entering this realm of we're getting a little bit darker, a little bit more ambiguous with good guy, bad guy nature, because we're not sure.
Mm-hmm.
And certainly none of the teen angst that is to come in between the covers here. You know, we don't really know what this is about from looking at this. This could be a villain throwing a guy down, you know? We don't know.
Yeah.
You ready?
I'm ready. Go for it. The Flash.
This is a bright cover.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
It's an odd cover because it doesn't show him his power.
Isn't that interesting?
stationary.
Yeah, stationary.
Kind of stiff.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, the look is getting a little bit. This is still bright. I would argue this might be more of a throwback to the Golden Age look a little bit more.
Yeah.
But I think it's the action here that brings us more into Silver Age.
And again, we have the word balloons and the little
Yes.
the little blurb.
Mhm.
Unbelievable! Shock follows shock.
Yeah. DC is definitely doing what Marvel does. They're copying each other back and forth. You know,
I've had enough of you two. From now on, the Flash works alone.
Ooh,
Unbelievable.
Them's running words. Scott, what do you think, man? What are you feeling off this one?
Well, I think it looks a little Archie comicsy.
Yeah.
A little
Yeah.
slapsticky.
Yeah.
But that might, you know,
What makes it feel that way though?
well, actually the colors again,
Yeah.
they're very,
That's very
they're all
Archie.
a monotone. That's not the right word, but one color. There's no depth to their colors.
Yeah,
like just on that that Spider-Man, Rory said the black with the blue gives a reflection and a
There's
light.
no
that obviously,
shading at all with the
yeah,
colors,
there's no,
is there?
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
everything's two dimensional. They're all on the same plane.
Yeah, that foreground background does not.
And
blend
he
well.
looks like he's not really standing on that building. It looks like someone else drew the background, and he was
Pasted onto
pasted in there.
Yeah.
It's just
Superimposed. Yeah.
There's
yeah,
no
it's just an
shadows.
odd cover. And maybe it's trying to be goofy. And I know every there's Star Trek 4. We got Star Trek 4 to provide levity.
Sure.
So
Sure.
every comic has their goofy. Every once
Is that
in
the
a
one with the
while.
whale?
That is the one with the whale.
The one with the whales.
The one
That's
with the
right.
whales. Yes.
That's all I can remember.
That's a great one. It's one of my favorites. But
some
it
people
it
refer
would
to
be.
2, 3, and 4 as the most epic Star Trek trilogy out there. So you got to show full respect for 2, 3, and 4.
I love them.
Just saying.
Wait.
2, 3, and 4 would be Khan.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Search for Spock.
Search for
and
Spock
then
is
Yeah.
not so much. Is that not?
No, it's not
Yeah.
my favorite.
Not really feeling it.
Not my favorite.
Search for Spock is it leads into what happens later, but it's not. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Okay.
The even numbered ones are the better ones.
They are.
I see.
They are.
Okay.
5 is
Strangely
one of the
enough.
worst. 5 is a travesty. 6 is
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
If anybody out there is a Trek fan, the Fathom Events and Regal Cinema is doing Wrath of Khan 40th anniversary director's cut.
Yeah.
In theaters next week. I'm going on Monday to see it. So anyone wants to come to Rochester, New York, and join me, I'll be seeing it. So
I think they're doing it locally here too.
Oh,
But I'm not
they're
sure.
doing it locally
I'd have
here
to look
too.
it up. Yeah.
I saw the
Yeah.
motion picture when they did that, the 40th anniversary.
40.
That took my teenage son, and he managed to stay awake through the motion picture, which was good.
Oh, really?
Wow.
Say, son, we're going to the talkies.
Go to the talkies.
So, anyways, that cover seemed kind of like, to me, it seemed
Yeah.
a little slapsticky, a little odd.
Mhm.
But
This one here, the X-Men, I chose this one just because it sort of defines what Kirby and Lee were doing, Stan Lee and Jack Kirby were doing in the early 60s. bringing forward the X-Men, which would change a lot of how people perceived comics from that point on.
12 cents. Wow.
Yeah. Just the way the characters are drawn. Again,
That's Steranko.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's Steranko. Lovely.
Yeah, we're going beyond theatrical facades and high school stage plays here. We're getting into really intense science fiction and just unexpected look. You don't expect to see what you're seeing with the X-Men, which is part of its appeal. Scott, what do you think?
Nice job with the ice, by the way.
Yes, I agree.
I love the movement. Their features are exaggerated, but they're all doing something in a. Rob, you said Spider-Man was very boring. He's just swinging. And this one, they're all in the middle of some sort of extreme action. They're all like the extremes of their movement. Cyclops is really obviously running. Iceman is he's sliding, but he's as far over just about as he could get. He's ice manning. Angel there does look like he's kind of smacking into a clear window, like he's a bird.
Yeah.
Slammed.
Right. Boom. Yeah.
The hazards of the job.
Nice.
It's a Windex commercial.
Yeah, it's a little bit.
But they're all very, very active. They're all in poses that shows a lot of movement.
We are actually seeing some shading, some color shading on this. You can. They've made an attempt on her legs, her green, some shining on her green outfit. The shading with the ice is very well done. So
yes,
and we've got purple on the blue costume. This is the first time I've seen of all these where we're actually getting into some tonal combinations with the colors.
Yes, some contouring with the colors. That looks good. It's strong. Anyone else before we move on?
I think it's
Rob?
it's starting to get like over the top, that's going to be the next era.
Everyone. Yeah, they're all in motion. There's so much motion in all those.
Good call. Motion. Yeah.
What
were those robots called?
What's that?
Sentinels.
Sentinels. Yeah.
Sentinels. Yeah.
What year is this?
We're still in the Silver Age. This is 60s. So
60s,
roughly we're in the decade of the 60s at this point. So we can move on, Barb, to the next stage. That's just another one I wanted to add in to show motion and group scenes were a big part of it, along with what Barb has already commented on with look how much copy is on this cover. Arguably maybe they went a little overboard, but that arc of the Human Torch just really sells it. It's just
very
beautiful.
cool.
Yeah.
And clever what they did with his body, because how would you see somebody if they're covered in flame?
Right.
Kind of like the broad stroke musculature.
But again, motion, action. We're entering the 60s here, and then the esoteric nature that was permeating pop culture is starting to come through. Everything about it, the blurbs, definitely motion. Barb, anything that jumps out at you that you want to comment on?
Lots of words on there.
Yeah.
Trying to find your next one here. Sorry.
No, that's okay. We're getting into. I'd love for you to find the Spider-Man scene that I shared with you earlier. It doesn't have to be. Yeah, we're getting there. Again, this is an excellent example. We're getting into Bronze Age now. This is the 70s. The 70s marked by not only more extreme action on the covers, but we're getting into the more shredded anatomy. Spidey goes from having more black in his non-red part of his costume to more blue, brighter. The foes of these superheroes are starting to get more monstrous and somewhat horror-oriented. I think you have here. Is this the Scorpion? Yeah, the Scorpion. So
lots more going on.
Lots more going on. The horror input is there. the action is there. Scott, what do you see as somebody who probably wasn't reading comics in that era? When you look at this, what do you see when you look at this?
I do think that this style, like you were saying with this physique, the lots of muscles, I feel like this held on for a long time, because I'm thinking, I don't want to give it away in the 90s, but that's when I started reading. Like, I feel like that's how every X-Man looked. Everybody they're all very detailed. And then, getting, am I wrong? I feel like the amount of copy on the cover starts to diminish here at this phase. Good amount of action, but then now with more hues and tones and gradations, and a lot more the detail, the fine detail as well. Even just in all the water, all the detail there,
the splashing and so on,
lines, the black lines in there to give it motion.
Yep. You can see Kirby's influence here, because the foundations that Kirby had set down in the Silver Age, you can see everyone's following his lead here with bringing you into the action. Again, you're not watching a stage performance from the audience. You're in there with the characters, experiencing it. And that is definitely a Silver Age, but even more so a Bronze Age quality. Barb, what do you see when you look at this?
Again, what Scott said, we see a real upswing in color gradations, and showing shading with colors, and it's a lot busier.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I've always thought with superhero physiques, like if you saw Peter Parker in high school in gym class, or if like some of the Tony Starks we see, or Bruce Wayne walked into the boardroom as jacked as
yes, jacked.
What's up with that guy?
That's a mild-mannered reporter.
It's like almost 7 feet tall, and he's got pecs. Like, my goodness. It's just Bruce Wayne. It's
good observation there.
It's Bruce.
Rob, what about you? Anything from the Bronze Age here that really starts to jump out at you?
Yeah, this is a Gil Kane cover.
One of my favorite artists.
Yeah, and I can see touches of several different inkers on it. There's a little John Romita in there. There's some bunches of different stuff. But Gil Kane's anatomy was very good for Spider-Man. He picked up some of that odd spiderish anatomy moves that Ditko did. So you get some of that here, but there's kind of an S shape to the layout of that cover, starting with the Scorpion, and then you circle down and come back through Spider-Man. So you get that motion coming through. And the water helps that even more. It gets all that motion in there. So it's a very well conceived cover, but there's a lot going on, and again, it's still mostly flat colors, but there is some gradation. And again, we go with red in the background, a warm color in the back,
the
warm colors in the back, and the blue and the green, but it brings them forward. That's not how it's supposed to work, but it does here.
It does
very well.
Yeah. Good call. I also want to bring out the graphic design element of the iconic pose of standing Spider-Man in the upper left corner. This was just a hallmark of 70s comics. You always I always found it cool to have this iconic silhouette almost of the character in the top left corner of every cover.
That was
there was a practical reason.
There's a sales reason for that, because when the place where I bought my comic books was a grocery store, and they didn't have a spinner rack. They had like magazine racks like you see today, and the books were stacked, so you could pull it aside, and you would see, okay, that's a Marvel comic. I see the character and the Marvel logo, and DC, they had the little circle there, and you go, okay, well, that's a DC book. So it was a sales ploy. I always look for those Marvel because I was a Marvel zombie back then
Were
when these things hit the stage. So yeah, that was great stuff.
Yeah, it really was great. Barb, what's next? What do we got? Ooh, one of my faves of all
Jim
time.
Aparo? It looks like Jim Aparo.
Is that Jim or is that Neil? It could be Jim.
We have Tommy.
I think
we have Tommy. We have
Howdy do, everybody.
Tommy
Hey,
sign.
Tommy,
no.
reporting in live from
Tommy,
the Blair Witch Project.
That's right, the inker who never
Are you
sleeps
ghost hunting?
and
I am
lost
ghost
in the
hunting.
woods.
Oh, I think we should go do. Oh man, I almost ran off the road. No,
Don't do
bike.
that.
Just a late after work bike ride through the woods, and I wanted to drop in and say hello. I'll see a lot of you guys in a couple in next week.
Yeah.
I'm
Yes.
so happy. It's gonna be fun.
Tommy,
It's
how did
gonna
your
rock.
bike enjoy coming to work?
Bring your bike to work day. I think my bike was very happy. It got to lean up against the printer.
Yeah.
The whole day. And it was please don't leave me in the garage on the day to work. And so it was.
I was being attacked by robots.
It's a girl bike. I call her Inky because she's black.
Oh.
You see, like ink. Like
Very
that.
nice.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Okay.
That's sweet. A man and his bike. What can you say?
Bike in his man.
A man in his bike.
Tommy, we were just talking about all these different art styles, and you being very versatile, like our friend Rob here. You guys can do any style. You can ink any style. Rob can draw any style. So we're going through all the Silver Age and Golden Age and Bronze Age and all that, and having a good time. Sort of talking about art styles. What's your favorite age as they define it in the comic world? Did you like the Bronze Age, like the 80s, the 90s? What was your favorite decade?
Whatever you want to consider old school Spider-Man stuff.
Oh, okay.
So I guess that's just that nice, clean line work. I mean, like you were saying, I like doing all the scratchy stuff and all of the hashes, the feathering and all that kind of stuff. But I still just like regular old thick to thin, solid line work is what I like. And you can tell when I like it. I like big old thick lines. Big old thick lines.
We were talking about John Romita and Gil Kane. That era of Spidey. Probably Bronze Age is what you're referring to as old school Spidey with the death of Gwen Stacy and all that. So we're getting to that scene right now, but we just moved up to Batman here, and this is definitely Bronze Age, the 70s look. You guys, Scott, you notice how you're immersed in this, how this comes right out at you. Mm-hmm. So we have gone from the stage look to you are right in it. Batman is right in your face. He's leaping at you. You've got the ripped physique. You've got just a lot of copy on the page. What do you think, Scott? How do you
right in your face? It's right in your face.
Yeah, man. It's a boom.
Yeah, it's awesome movement, and clearly with the cape, stuff's going on. It's clearly dark. I love there's a moon there. That's a bit of a theme with his logo and. But it's a lot of action, and he's moving. I love it. I love that. I love the style.
It's almost hinting toward the decades to come, the dark 80s, which is right around the corner here. We're going to get to it. But the 70s, thanks to Neil Adams and Jim Aparo and others, Batman became that dark Avenger that then began to permeate the films as they came later. But Barb, what do you see when you see this? What jumps out?
What I see is that hand is almost breaking the fourth wall.
Yeah.
That is
right
awesome. Yep.
It's gonna grab you. It's pulling you into the picture.
Oh yeah. It's awesome.
And you've got the warm red background and the cool blue foreground.
Yeah.
So it pops it.
Hot summer night.
It does pop. Rob, what about you, my friend? Is this your jam? Are you digging it?
Yeah. I liked the stuff that was being done around this. That looks like Jim Aparo and Walt Simonson kind of rolled together. I'm not sure who did that cover, but it's coming at you. That's Kirby's influence there, because that's what always got me about Kirby's work, especially in the early '60s, is everything's coming out of the panel. That fist is that foreshortened and the hands coming out to grab you, bring you in, as I said earlier. But yeah, there's the action. But it's very simple at the upper part, and then you get the hint of the city underneath. So that's a great cover. I love that cover.
It jumped out at me.
As
I was researching for the show, I was like, okay, I got to throw this one in.
Got to have that one in there.
Yeah. Rory, what about you as we march through the '70s? What are your thoughts?
So I've been watching the background, specifically the cityscapes, and how they've gotten progressively more interesting to look at. And especially here, it's the cityscape itself is dynamic, and the attention to detail on these buildings, with their highlights, lowlights, and things like the smokestacks on the top, on the left, in the back, or just the chimneys on these things, in the windows, and how they're it's much more precise, more realistic.
Yeah. Roland is being a wonk here. And
wonky Roland.
He doesn't like it.
Wah, wah. So here he goes. Golden Age, 1938 to 1951. Silver Age, 56 to 7. I told you we were going to get this. Bronze Age, 1970 to 1985.
Of all people, he did it. Yeah.
Actually, I warned you guys this was coming. And yes, he is actually correct.
Yes.
The 80s are the
Don't
Iron
admit
Age.
it. Don't admit it.
Yeah, he is. He is. But 80s are not dark ages. I use that, Roland, mainly as just a euphemism for the content, but yes, technically it is the Iron Age. Now, this is one of the defining moments of the Bronze Age because of Gwen Stacy's death. Not only the content, but also look at the camera angle. You got this oblique, POV from above for drama. You've got the obvious, death scene. This defines the Bronze Age for me. And it also, again, reinforces how cool, I believe Gil Kane had the privilege of doing that piece.
Yes, he did.
And
yes, he did.
To me, that's iconic. That's Spidey and Gwen Stacy. There are no others. Scott, what do you see when you see this scene?
It's the angle feels like either we're zooming in on something really
pulling out
or coming out and going away, like he's crying to God. He's angry at everything. And we can't, and from this angle, like, we can't do anything about it either. So we have to just watch the agony and the pain of this scene. So it's a little bit of a distance, and we're removed from it.
That's
and
a good observation.
The location is removed from everything else too. Very, very alone.
Very much alone. Yeah. Barb, what about you? Impact from this?
I wish they would have used a different color on the rooftops. These is really
makes it look flatter.
Kind of a mustard.
Yeah,
looks like
pukey mustard yellow.
Baby mustard, maybe.
Back then they only had 5 colors, so that was it. They didn't have anything else.
Let's see, yellow, blue, Tommy. Baby poop.
Yeah. poop color. Yeah, we'll use poop color. That'll work.
I think
we have too much of that anyways.
I think they could have used a better color on her coat too, because it should have popped more against the puke yellow background. So it kind of diminishes it just a bit. But then, we've got this huge blurb down at the bottom: "The night when Stacy died." So that's pretty dramatic.
Yeah, very dramatic. Rory, what about you?
I like that they kept the background to a minimum to really emphasize, the characters. But I don't know if it's the way that the top of the building is drawn, or it's such a flat color. It doesn't look like he's sitting upright from it.
Yeah,
it looks like it's flat against it.
It's a weird
angle.
Yeah, well, you notice
or no
there's
shadow.
Quite work.
No shadows. No
on
shadows
his back,
for separation.
Yeah.
And I had some shadows to anchor it.
Right.
Obviously, I think that was intentional because psychologically, it might give you that isolation that Scott was talking about. Just them alone on a stage, almost.
Yeah.
It almost
that's what it looks like.
Tommy, is this your jam, my friend? Is this your
Spidey jam? I just like the Spider-Man.
No. Yeah, I love it. I love it. It's
I
fantastic.
thought I lost a connection. I am way out in the woods, by the way. So.
Oh,
you're cracking out up a little bit, but that's
Oh! I'll try to stay on.
But don't
I'm
do it
worried.
for real, please.
Yeah, I'm worried.
No,
about
I'm not. No. way out in the woods.
Way out in the woods. Way out in the woods. Are you? Are
in
you
Florida
feeling
woods.
lost?
The woods.
Are you feeling?
No, I'm not lost. I'm just way out in the woods.
Okay.
He's looking for somebody to mug.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what he's doing. This is also
That happens to be where the bike trail is. I just went there.
Again, this is definitely Bronze Age.
Oh, okay.
We're talking about subject matter being a lot more serious, drug addiction and so on. I believe this would be Neil Adams and
Denny O'Neil and Neil
Denny
Adams.
O'Neil. Yeah, yeah. So we've got subject matter that's a little bit more socially relevant, which hadn't really been delved into as much. We've got realism of rendering and anatomy.
And no Comics Code Authority stamp in the upper right-hand corner.
No stamp in the corner at all.
True.
This is interesting. Welcome, Brent. Welcome, my friend.
Brent.
Good to see you.
Howdy.
We're having a journey through the various ages of comics, from the Golden Age to the Silver Age to the Bronze Age, which is where we currently are, roughly the decades of the 50s, 60s, 70s. So we're in the 70s now. We're just kind of observing.
We're never going to make it to the 2000s.
You're only allowed to talk about it, Brent, is if you can define them year to year. That's it. We've all done it already.
We've all done. But
Okay.
What do you see, like, when you see this cover? What do you see, Brent? Since you're freshly in, we're talking in terms of, like, the realism of it, the color scheme of it. What's a handful of words that stick with you when you see this cover?
I'm always going to be a word guy. Can't help it.
Uh-oh.
I literally think in words. So my first thought is junkie. They don't really use that term anymore.
Junkie!
Junkie. Yeah.
And
Junkie!
yeah. So art-wise, I mean, you got everything there. It's interesting if you look at it from a philosophical point of view, which is normally you have all these guys in these really pronounced poses, but everything is almost the opposite of that. They're very much just standing around and kind of trying to add gravity to the subject, which is interesting.
Different kind of dramatic.
Different kind of dramatic. Good call. Calculus says coloring was decent at best back then, though. Yes, they definitely had limitations for the coloring.
Yeah.
Barb, what does this say to you when you see this cover?
Well, when you think back to the first one we saw, where it's just really two-dimensional and flat, we've come a long way. I mean, we've got perspective where we're going back towards the door, and we've got Speedy is right up front, right in your face, and then we got a middle ground. We have real definite background, middle ground, foreground, and the coloring and the shading has gotten so much better. There's a lot of definition and depth now. We're getting into the very artsy phase of comics.
Oh yeah, definitely emotional impact, dimensional impact. Scott, what do you see when you look at this?
Barb was saying it all moves this way. We've got foreground, middle ground, background, and even the logo takes it there too. So it's all spaced out nicely. Again, that background too, just like the Spider-Man rooftop, it is kind of a puke brown.
Got that same leftover color that they had from the other book.
Same, yeah.
They must have had a deal on it.
Extra ink. Extra
Well,
ink,
in-
that way,
in
yeah.
this-
Extra ink. We got to use this. We got to get
In
rid
this
of
case,
this.
because we have 3 figures on here and we've got a lot of detail going on, they needed to fade the background for that reason.
Yeah,
So the
yeah.
color actually works this way.
No, it's
Calculus says R.I.P. Neil Adams. Amen, brother.
Yeah.
Really
Speedy's
miss,
eyes.
Miss
Sorry.
Neil. Yes, go ahead, Rory.
Yeah, Speedy's eyes is just looking right at you. That'd be breaking fourth wall right there.
Mm-hmm.
It looks at you like he
Definitely.
knows he's done something wrong.
Definitely. What's next, Barb? We want to keep rolling here. Secret War.
Oh,
Here we go. We've entered the 80s, ladies and gentlemen. We've entered the 80s, which Roland properly says is the Iron Age, the modern age. Definitely the Iron Age for me. This is the era of big, epic battles and cosmic things and changing costumes and just wild events. Rob, what do you see when you see this Secret Wars cover? Is that just
people? Yeah, all these heroes exploding out of the middle of the cover.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just coming at you. It's very much like that Batman when we were looking at earlier. There's absolutely no background really. I mean, I can't see anything there.
What do you mean? It's an icy tundra.
There's no. Yeah,
it's an icy.
There's
blue
and white.
No room.
Blue and white.
For anything anyway. With all those characters, I don't know how they got those words jammed in there.
Really.
But,
I know, right?
Who did they cover up?
Yeah. Well, exactly. Right? I think they should have left that out. To be honest, that cover works well without all the blurb. But you get all the characters in there, and it's coming at you. That action's coming right out of the middle. So and Captain America in the lead.
Oh yeah.
Again, he looks like he's about to break the fourth wall there.
Yes. Yep.
Wolverine's original colors.
I don't know. Look at Spider-Man swinging off the page.
Spider-Man swinging off the page. You know, this is one of those really
Cyclops is blasting somebody.
Oh yeah, it's awesome. It is awesome. What's Scott? What do you see? You see this? Anything to add? To
color
the 80s?
scheme very similar to the Justice Society, Justice League, that era too. Just the bright colors again.
Good call. Let's move on so we can get into the 90s here. This is late 80s.
Hey, I wanted to go back. Go back again.
Go back.
I was gonna go back one. Go back again real quick.
Well, I'm trying to find it now.
How about I worry about it? We know what it looks like. How many that type of poses have you? There you go. How many? Is this the beginning of when we started seeing these kind of covers where it was just all these characters just exploding at you like that? To me, it seems like this is one of the first. I don't know, maybe it's probably not, but it seems like it's for me in my mind. When I think about those type of covers, this is the cover that always pops up in the back of my head. It's like when I need to draw something like that, this is what I see, and then I steal from it. So
I think.
What do you think?
You mean a mosh pit of characters?
Yeah, just jumping out. Yeah, that the beginning. Is this like one of the big first ones where they started doing this kind of crazy stuff? Where it's almost like, are they all clip art characters they just stuck on there, or has anybody ever seen this cover? In person? The inked version of it.
Person. Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, it's what I call the crowded exploding group cover.
Yeah.
And that George Perez was famous for stuff like that.
Yeah. Because we've all been asked to draw something like that. Can you put 30 people on a page and have them all running at you? Right. And then, and they're all doing something different. And you're like, okay, and then this is what you think of, and you go, I'm going to do something like this. I'm sorry, go ahead. Next.
You definitely have Captain America in the foreground just looking so awesome, and Wolverine right up to the side. And then Storm in the back going, oh, come on, guys.
Yeah, move out of the way. Move out. They're all pushing each other out of the way.
Trying to get. I need more screen time. Yeah.
Yeah. Look, they paid me more. I need to move.
And then we go to
this is a
minimalism.
The late 80s.
We're screen now.
Oh yeah.
Very
we
minimal.
get some Frank Miller and Alan Moore, and we get to Dave Gibbons with Watchmen, and these pretty much defined late 80s, and as we transition into the 90s, things start to go much darker, much grittier. We begin to deconstruct superheroes at this point, which still continues to this day. Believe it or not, they're still not tired of that. They're still doing it. So, but again, this is definitely where art takes a second position to the story. What are your thoughts on this, Scott? I'm sure at this point you're starting to read comics.
Yeah,
at this point, right?
I'm starting to be cognitive about.
I
was born.
He was 3 years old when this.
This is about as simple as it gets. I mean, clearly we know that Batman's going on there, something's going on, but it matches the style of the era of getting simple. Watchmen, got no clue. It might be even for me a little bit too postmodern. Like, I don't know if you picked that up in 1980, whatever.
It's a big blob of blood, so
it's blood
right
on a smiley face.
Yeah,
eye.
Are we supposed to know?
Unless you know that.
I'm sincere in this question. Should I like in 1980, whatever? Would you know that? Would you have any clue?
Says,
I know I'm
when these came out.
Yeah, so it's fine. It might be. It's enough to get you interested. Like, what's going on here? What is that's obviously the smiley face, and there's blood.
A drop of blood.
Yeah.
The darkness begins. Barb, did you have anything you want to throw
Both
in on
of
this
these
one?
are simplistic but powerful in their simplicity because they're stark. They draw your eye. The bolt of lightning through the black draws your eye straight towards the black. The splotch of red blood over yellow and black is startling. Both of them have a bit of shock factor. So it draws your eyes immediately.
It's at a point where content is overwhelming the complexity of the art, right? So the content is obviously the star here, not so much the art, but what the art is describing. That's what's supposed to catch your attention. I'm going to take this moment to ask you guys just an open question here. If you're reading a story and you're seeing, for example, Bronze Age art, and then all of a sudden in the middle of the story, this art takes over, is it something that's going to bother you, alienate you, or does it depend on the content? Scott?
If the art changes suddenly without a major plot point or a break in the plot, I don't like it. Okay. I feel like there needs to be a reason because the style will guide the feel of it. So you have that cover, that cool of all the heroes going punching, kapow, boom, 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 and you really feel like this is going to be a big fight. There's not going to be a lot of cerebral thought process going on in this scene or this comic. If you were to then just stop style change, it would make me think something's happened. Something's going to change dramatically. So I don't know if I would like that. I don't know if there would have to be a reason that it would have to match with the story to make that big change.
So style is consistent with content, and that's more comfortable. It's fair to say, in general, that for you, it's more comfortable that style reflects the content, and a jarring change in style would catch your attention. Probably
it cues a change. I always go back to Barb's comic. I've loved because the art fits the comic. If her style changed to stylized people, if Divinity suddenly was, I don't know, her features got weird or she was
now she's anime.
Yeah. If she got cartoony
anime
between one story, one issue, and then the next, it would have to change. If her villains got suddenly with superhero suits or supervillain suits, and it cues a change in the really the overall theme or the overall feel rather of the story.
Yeah, I agree. What about you, Rory? What about you? How do you feel about that?
Scott hit the nail on the head. There has to be a reason for the change, either like action or something severely emotional, like one of the main characters had to have died, or a big love loss or something, where all of a sudden now it's dark and rainy and scratchy art or something.
Well, somebody, I haven't watched the whole thing. Somebody spliced Adam West Batman into the Batman, and it's so you got that goofy Adam West, gray and blue in the gritty. So like those two styles don't just like you can't just.
It doesn't quite. Anyone else want to chime in on changing styles midstream? Is it a good, bad, indifferent? Barb?
In the middle of the book?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, I've seen that happen.
Yeah,
when they're behind schedule, they'll just throw any penciler at it. Can you make the deadline? Yeah, can you make the deadline? Sure. Okay, it doesn't even look remotely like the artist who started on the book, but we're up against the wall. It's very jarring, and it throws you out of the story immediately.
Agreed.
I think it could be done gracefully over the whole book if the art ever so subtly changed and you weren't aware of it until later, like, whoa, why is this different? I think that'd be a cool plot maneuver.
I have been involved in many of those situations where teams are brought in, different teams are brought in to catch up the deadline, and you got the back half of that issue. It's like, what's the front look like? I don't know, it's not done yet.
That's just desperation doesn't breed confidence.
Well, that's where the inker's skill really comes in handy.
Well, not if you don't know what the other inker's doing.
No, that's true. Right. No. It'd be nice if it was the same inker all the way through with a different penciler.
That's what I'm saying. It would not be the same inker.
Yeah.
Now, Barb and I are on the same page where it's like you got 4 different pencilers, 4 different inkers throughout the book just to get the book done. And, it's like, that's crap.
That doesn't work.
You are correct, Rob, in that a good inker can smooth the rough lines, make it kind of consistent.
Well, it's kind of like with the Trumps, our Silverline Trumps 1 and 2. It was 2 different pencilers. I didn't try to not make them. I let the penciler come through, but I kind of tried to make it the same all the way through. So I know some people didn't even realize it was 2 different pencilers in it, but yeah, it's weird sometimes. Or if you have an art team where they're trying to catch up, and it's not even the end of a scene. It's right in the middle. The person's talking, and then all of a sudden the next page they're still talking, but it's a different person drawing the thing, and it's like, oh god, that's terrible.
It's jarring. Calculus says, I think it can be executed, but I prefer it not changing. And Roland says it's just terrible when that happens, and I agree with Roland. Again, wow, here comes speak of the devil. Welcome. What's up, Roland? Good to see you, buddy. How are you?
If Roland's here, I gotta go. He doesn't want me. He doesn't want me on the Wednesday show. He said, "Do not." He said, "Do not go on the Wednesday show."
Oh, we love you, Tommy. We don't care what Roland says. You're always welcome, buddy.
I think we should save the '90s and the aughts for another.
That's a good idea because we've.
I think we should because we do.
Because you could sit and spin in the '90s for a long time.
Something very important to talk about.
That's when it gets interesting.
We have something very important to talk about. We have a surprise, which is what the harbinger of Roland's appearance brings to us.
Wow!
So I'm gonna let him. I'm gonna let him sort of take over for a minute here. And what seems to be going on, Roland? There's something special tonight.
So dudes, 20. Does that number mean anything to y'all?
Dudes, 20.
20
dudes.
There's 20 of us.
Another year before I can drink.
Let's see.
So that would have been 17 for me.
Wow.
Missouri is 21.
Down in the dirty south.
Back in the day.
Down in the dirty 17 for me.
Yeah. You just had to be 18.
Mm-hmm.
18.
Yeah.
Well, you could get 3-2
18 and
here
life
in
to go.
Kansas, but that was the best
Yeah.
one too.
Yeah.
That was a good one, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got it, Tommy.
I sure did.
I didn't hear it. It was too many. I got
18
all
and
in my
life to
ears.
go. Listening to metal back in the
Uh-huh.
80s. So,
You would have thought Roland would have got that one, but he didn't.
Yeah. I
he
wasn't
probably
listening. I was listening to somebody else.
So
Too
we're
many.
going to talk about the Kickstarter, and
Oh,
Roland, you tell
Yeah.
us what this is about before we roll on this one. Set it up for us.
20, guys. This is number 20.
Mm-hmm.
Kickstarter number 20.
Woo!
It's awesome.
So I gotta say, when this last month, when I've been doing some shows with some different people on streams, I mentioned that number, and you could just see the look on their face go, 20.
Yeah. 20.
Wow.
Yeah,
and
man.
of course, then I'm quick to add, and yes, we have fulfilled all of them on time as well.
Mhm.
So yeah, I am absolutely proud of the fact that we as a team have been able to do that. And I just tell people when they ask me, well, how you guys do that? I said, you know what? We just like making comic books.
We're busy. Busy.
Yeah, we spend our time working. You
We
spend
don't
your time
sleep.
complaining.
Good call.
Bitch and moan. Bitch and moan.
A little less of that and a little more of this will get it done,
More of
right?
this. That's right. That's
right.
exactly right.
So yeah, we're launching. I'm excited to say we are finishing up Twilight Grim. Mr. Rob, take a bow.
Right.
That's right.
Yes.
All
That's
4
Rob's
issues
book.
of this one.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, look at that.
Yeah,
That's,
look at that.
that's actually one of the
Ooh.
pages that's going to be
Awesome.
available
Scary.
as
Scary stuff.
an add-on.
Ooh.
So
That's awesome.
Yeah.
so yeah, Rob has been very generous, and there's some cool pages from Twilight Grim number 4 that you can get. But this is the conclusion, you folks. Oh, that's a nice page.
That's
Look
cool.
at that.
Look at that.
That's right.
Calculus.
That's right.
Spooky.
Calculus. Spooky
Yeah.
stuff.
Spooky stuff. Yeah. Yeah.
So we've got Twilight Grim number 4. We have got Kalis, Achilles Has Landed number 1.
Oh.
So if y'all
Yeah.
remember, Kalis was the first miniseries that we were able to do through to conclusion. Twilight Grim will be the second. But Kalis, Brent has got his team jamming, and they've already finished number 1 of Achilles Has Landed. So
Can't wait.
yeah. So I'm excited dude, it looks good. It looks really good. And yeah. So, and then we also have Sirens number 2, which has been beautifully digitally remastered and colored by the Empress of Inks there. And for those of you keeping score, we and there's another page of original art that's going to be available as an add-on. One of
That's
the covers
awesome.
to Sirens.
That's
So for those of you keeping score, we only just kickstarted Sirens 1 just a few Kickstarters back. So
Yeah.
this is one of our remix books, and I think Barb, didn't you send me a message that like you're
Halfway through number 3.
halfway through number 3?
Wow,
so
Cool.
That is so cool.
Yep, we are jamming on that, and
Halfway through Divinity 3.
and then we have one more remix book that we are adding into the mix. And it is called The Scary Book. It is a humor scary book.
I love that.
Really, really sweet art by Steve Wilhite and Dan Schaefer. And it has been digitally remastered and colored by Eric Rossman, who I'm hoping to get to join us. He might join the Tuesday crew because he's out on the West Coast. But I've been trying to talk him into joining us some. But he's one of those that's like, stream, what do you mean? I got to talk to people?
Not really. Just talk to all your friends.
So
Just pretend
Rumor
we're
has
your
it,
friends.
Roland. Rumor
Just
has it
pretend we're your
that Steve Wilhite is going to be a guest on Wednesday Wham in the
The-
future.
I believe
There's
that
a rumor.
is accurate.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. Glad to hear it.
When I don't have that in front of me. Do you know the date? Is that next week?
The date is
I think that-
actually the 7th of September, which will be next week.
Yeah, next week.
No.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
I'm gonna be
so
so next week
Steve
if
Wilhite.
all goes
Yes.
well, I'll already on the road. We're running out of time. I'm pointing the clock on my computer because
yes,
where will we be in a couple weeks too?
Right.
In 2 weekends from now,
we're
right?
going to be
Two
in
weekends.
Daytona
A whole bunch
Beach
of us going to be in Daytona Beach.
Comic-Con.
That's right.
Yes,
Daytona
very
Beach
exciting.
Comic-Con. And
I tried, but they wouldn't let me in.
Florida won't let you in.
Yeah.
No, they
we'll
wouldn't
give you
let
a
me
special
in.
pass. We're
They
gonna get you a
said
special pass.
no.
Yeah, Rob.
Yeah, we're gonna get you
Rob
there.
already
We're gonna make
knows
it-
he's going to be the number one ask next year. So
Yes, he is. Yes, he is.
I did ask, and he'd already filled the table. And he
Yeah.
says, I wouldn't, we can't fit you in. And I'm going, that's okay.
you can
There's a
come and
lot-
walk around if you want.
There's a
I
lot of
could,
people.
but that's a
There's
long
lot of
drive to just walk
Silverliners there.
around.
There's a lot of
It's
Silverliners
going to be
there.
fantastic.
So yeah,
We
you're
also
gonna-
encourage everybody to go to the YouTube channel.
Yes, subscribe.
And, subscribe. Go
Yes.
to the YouTube channel
Yeah.
and subscribe.
Now, I
There's a
don't-
giveaway.
I did put the Kickstarter video here, so this can be the debut.
We
of
are
it.
now going to roll the Kickstarter video.
Roll that
So
beautiful
here-
bean footage.
Here we go, everybody.
Hi, and welcome to the Kickstarter.
Oh,
I'm
it's
Roland
beautiful.
Man, and I'm the chief cook and bottle washer at Silverline Comics, a genre-spanning independent comic and graphic novel publisher. And I'm here to tell you about our Kickstarter number 20! 20! Can you believe we've done 20 Kickstarters? That's right, 20 Kickstarters. We have successfully funded and shipped 20 Kickstarters. That's 20. That means we are making comic books. And I'm here to tell you about our next batch of Kickstarter comics that you know you want to support it if you can. So I'm going to stop talking and I'm going to let Brent Larson tell you about Kalis. Take it away, Brent.
Okay, we'll finally get to see how the story ends. Wait a minute. That's it? A tree floating in space? That's so weird. Hi, I'm Brent Larson. You may remember me from such creator-owned comics as Kalis. Some of you at the end of the story thought, this is no way for a story to end, and I agree, which is why I'm excited to announce that in September we will be kickstarting Kalis Volume 2. It'll tell more of the story of where Scott Anders actually has been, why he wants to go back, what's the CIA doing in the meantime, and who is the mysterious group that's trying to keep him here on Earth. It's very exciting, the art is wonderful, and I'm really excited to share it with you. So thanks for your support, and we'll see you in the comics.
Thank you, Brent. And now here's Rob Davis to tell us about Twilight Grim.
20 years ago, the city of Hallowed Heights was nearly destroyed as the result of warfare between humans and vampires. In its aftermath, the two factions forged a most unusual peace plan. A high and heavily guarded wall now splits the two sides of the city. On one side of the wall reside the middle and upper classes of humans. It is clean, beautiful, and safe. On the other side of the wall, where a teenaged petty thief named Susie Q has just been exiled, lies the darkest and most horrible ghetto imaginable. Here, amongst squalor and vice, dwell the poor, the homeless, the forgotten, and the vampires. Led by the family of Gregor Radovic. As long as the vampires stay on their side of the wall, the humans on the other side are willing to pretend they don't exist and let them rule over this so-called blood zone as they see fit. This includes turning a blind eye as the vampires feast upon the zone's human inhabitants. Amidst rumors that the long-held truce may be unraveling, there's no human law in the blood zone, save for that dispensed by a mysterious and violent young man who has appointed himself its sole guardian from the depredations of the vampires. His name is Twilight Grim.
Thank you, Rob. We've also got Sirens number 2 and Scary Book number 1, which is part of our remix line. You're going to love those. Horror goes in with our Silverline Horror Extravaganza. So, back it if you can. If you can't back it, we get it. We're in an inflation economy. You can share it. Tell all the people you know who love comic books that we make comic books and we ship them out because obviously this is Kickstarter number 20. And until then, remember to make mine Silverline.
Outstanding work, guys. That was great.
Rob, your voice. I mean, you got this audio book. You got
we found another talent, a hidden talent in Rob. Not only can he mimic any style, he can now do the audio voice and radio drama.
Got it.
Awesome. Our very own Prairie Home Companion.
We have an Orson Welles, Garrison Keeler.
Orson Welles and Garrison Keeler. All in one.
Can you record my voicemail?
Ozark Mountain Biscuits. Do this evening's episode.
I love it. Oh my gosh,
that's good. It's
great.
Rob's email is going to be full of people asking him to, hey, can you narrate my book?
So have we flipped the switch yet?
No, I you guys
hit the button, Roland.
You guys have got to be the ones that you always count us down. So
10
now,
9,
8,
7,
6, 5,
4,
3,
so slow.
2, 1. Make it happen.
0.
And it is button pushed. I'm waiting for the confirmation.
Is it? Refresh it.
It's live.
It's live.
It's alive.
It is alive.
Nobody has it up. I thought one of you might have had it up.
Folks, line up
No, I
and
don't.
support our show.
Let's see if,
awesome.
that email notification actually works. I'm going to check my email.
Yeah, that's what I'm checking is my email. See if I get a notification.
That's awesome. Guys, once again, we thank you for joining us tonight. Roland, thank you for joining us. Thank you for allowing Tommy the Inker, who never sleeps, to join us, even though he was lost in the Blair Witch Forest.
He's gone.
It was fun. It was a blast. And we always like to close every show with our phrase, make mine Silverline.
Hi, my name is Sergio Cariello, and make mine Silverline.